I want to briefly talk on a topic that nobody's really touched on. Just want to put a thought in your mind, make you think about something that you wouldn't normally think about. Now, there's a video that's circulating around the internet, mainly on Twitter and Facebook, of this little, what looks like to be a Mexican female that was crying because her father was caught up in a ICE, what do I call it? She was caught up in an ICE raid. And she was crying. You know, the media, when they get these people on the news, they tell them before they turn the cameras on to make sure that you cry. You know, make sure that you really show that you miss your dad. Let your dad know that you miss him. We need to see some tears. Because if you watch the video and you look at this little girl's expression before they actually started doing the interview, before the girl actually started talking, you would see that in her eyes she was coached into performing. Just like we find in the first photo where it was circulating around the internet about ICE separating children from the family. And they said the child was crying for the mother because ICE was separating this child from the moms. Later we found out that the mother only had to put the child down so that ICE or the Border Patrol could search her. Turned out to be a whole lie. Now, Americans have a weakness that their enemies are taking advantage of. I started to say they were thinking about or starting to take advantage, but they are taking advantage of the weakness of Americans. Because Americans are so spoiled that they really don't understand warfare. They really don't understand business. And even these tariffs that Trump is putting on China, you hear so many Americans crying and complaining about how prices are going up and how it's going to affect the farmers. But Trump is thinking long term. And what surprised me, and I'm off my topic, but what surprised me is you have business people that are crying, talking about Trump putting tariffs on China, when China has been ripping Americans off for the longest. And nobody thought about that. They never thought the fact that jobs were leaving, going to China. You paying more money for China's goods, and China steady ripping you off, growing their own economy. But now that we have a businessman in the White House that's now putting tariffs on China, playing the same game China's playing, and now China has been duping Americans so long that now they huff their chests out. Like, we don't really need you Americans no more. We can go to someone else. And what are Americans doing? They're crying. They're showing and displaying their weakness. They're showing and displaying that this is a divided nation, and a house divided within itself won't stand. Now back to my topic. Children of warfare. Remember all of the American soldiers that was killed in Vietnam by a Trojan horse child that walked up to them with a grenade strapped to them. Just like in the Middle East, you have children walking up to American soldiers with bombs strapped to them, or a pregnant woman, or a crying woman, playing on the emotions of Americans, because Americans are soft-hearted and they don't understand warfare, primarily guerrilla warfare. In Vietnam, what they used to do was, during guerrilla warfare, they would wound a soldier, one of your buddies. And while he's out there in the open, screaming and crying, especially if he's crying out for your name, and then you have a soldier that feels, I can't leave my comrade out there to die. I have to go out there and help him. So now he goes out, risks his life to try to save his buddy, and then he get killed. Or better yet, sometimes he's just wounded. So now you have another person that's just wounded. And then another troop comes out and they've taken out whole platoons like that, playing guerrilla warfare because they played on the emotions of the troops, of Americans. So remember all the children, all the American soldiers that was killed in Vietnam by a Trojan horse child that walked up to them with a grenade. Blew them and the child to smithereens. Children were always used in warfare. And there's no different than these children that's here illegally by their parents or by smugglers. But they're here. And I mentioned this in prior videos, and it's been all over the news, that you have people that say, listen, all we need to do is get our feet on American soil and we're here. There are pregnant females that's about ready to give birth. All she needs to do was get her foot on American soil, and now she gets the best medical attention. I spoke on an article in the past about these Russian women that's coming through Florida, and they feel that America have the best medical facilities. So now they come here, they pay thousands of dollars to come to America to give birth on American soil so that children, they will have ties to America because their child was born on American soil, so their child becomes an American, just because of the ways the laws are set up. So now all they need to do is put a crying child, even though this child may be trafficked, although this child's alleged parent may not be that child's parent, but just to get on American soil, they put a crying child in front of a camera, and Americans will fight to keep that child here, not realizing that they're increasing the potential for a terrorist attack. All they need is a crying child. Now, in these photos, I have 2 photos that's in this day and time, and I have 2 photos in Vietnam. Where you have in a photo where this young boy has got a grenade, looks like a grenade strapped to him. He's wearing military gear, surrounded by military people. The third image on the bottom left, 2 young children with rifles in their hand, dressed for combat, smoking a cigarette. The first photo, top left, you have a baby that's crying because the mother had to sit the child down and be searched. And then on the bottom right, you have the girl that was in the news crying for her father to come home. And it weakened the hearts of so many Americans. But what Americans don't realize is warfare is war. We're in the middle of a war. No, there's not bombs and planes flying over your head. There's not bullets flying. And that's not too far off. But this is the pre-Trojan horse guerrilla warfare. These children, these crying children are Trojan horse. And you know what? It may sound heartless. It may sound like, we have no sympathy or anything of that nature. But if you're in warfare and you see a child coming towards you with a bomb strapped to them, about to take your life and their life, whose life is more important? That child that was sent out, that was used as a weapon to destroy you, or your own life? Whose life would you rather go first? Yours or that child? Or would you allow the weakness of that enemy to destroy you? I remember in time past, even in Shaka Zulu, this is a movie, Shaka Zulu, where this young boy was born and he was supposed to have been king or something to that nature. But something happened where Shaka Zulu either killed his mom or his dad or something like that, something disrespectful. Well, Shaka couldn't allow that child to live. It was a baby. It was a harmless child at that moment. But Shaka could not allow that child to live or grow up, because that child, the way their culture was, that child is now on a mission to reap revenge for his parents. He knew that one day that child was coming for his neck. So he had a decision to make, to take that child's life. So don't allow crying children or crying pregnant women to be the Trojan horse that destroys this nation. Don't trust a crying child, a foreign crying child that don't belong here in the first place. And I know the demon crap politicians are protesting and saying how horrible Trump is, and Trump supporters, and have no heart, and how they become so emotional when they saw this little girl. That's what it's designed to do. That's why this little girl, this crying little girl, is a Trojan horse child of warfare. She's supposed to do that, to soften the hearts of Americans, so that whatever agenda they're trying to pass, they will pass it. Because then you'll have those that are weak will start fighting and protesting for these undocumented illegal immigrants to have more rights than your children have. Think of the number of homeless Americans that's on the street. Americans that have nothing to eat. Americans that can't go to the schools that they want to go to, that don't have health care. But the illegal immigrants, they are over here illegally. They are criminals. And you have more compassion for illegal immigrants than you do American-born children. Make sense of that. So these are no more than Trojan horse children of warfare. Never trust the crying child of an illegal immigrant, because it's not even guaranteed unless they do a paternity test. There's no way to know for sure if these are parents, the real parents of these kids, or if the real parents were paid money to allow their child to be trafficked into this country. So feedback, tell me what you think. Till next time, I'm fearless.